Good evening. One game left, and it is large. It's for a berth in tomorrow's championship game. Between the Toronto Batmen, they have been perfect so far in this tournament. They were 5-0 in the round robin, and then cruised this morning to down the Niagara Stompers in the first playoff game, which seemed like eons ago. And the Bear Creek Express opened up their playoff portion, knocking off the Galway Hitmen in a great ball game. The second one of the day on this diamond by a score of 4-3. My name is Peter Loubardias alongside Blair Setford. And Blair, unfortunately for Bear Creek, they are going to be without one of their stars and one of the world's stars. I don't think that's unfair to suggest.
Quentin Bruce, if you were with us earlier in the day, went back over the center field fence in a valiant attempt to catch a home run ball. Unfortunately for Quentin, as he went over the fence, he really came down awkwardly. We saw that on the replay. And Quentin is at the hospital currently with a suspected separated shoulder. Not in the lineup, obviously, for Bear Creek. I spoke with Doug Charlton a couple of hours ago, and he said the team is dealing with it as best they can, and we extend our best wishes to Quentin Bruce. But in the meantime, Bear Creek have got a job to do, and they've rejigged their lineup a little bit to work around their best player. For the Toronto Batmen, it is wash, rinse, repeat as they send out the same lineup that were big 7-0 winners earlier this morning over the Niagara Stompers. And they'll be led by Ty Sebastian in the circle.
And Ty Sebastian, to tell you what kind of tournament he is having, was named the MVP of the qualifying round earlier today. And Blair was brilliant in that playoff win, both in the circle, where he had 8 strikeouts in his 3 innings of work. He also had a couple of extra base hits. And he is set to work to 38-year-old veteran Brandon Horn. And Horn wastes little time jumping on the first pitch. And it has felt, I'm sure, like a very long wait. This game was originally slated to begin at 8:15, but a 9-inning game between Grand Prairie and the East Hants Nova Scotia Mastodons that went a couple extra, kind of set the whole schedule back, just the way it was set up. Sebastian in the tournament has pitched 14 innings, given up 7 hits, just 1 run, struck out 38 and only walked 1, Blair. So, and has been equally proficient at home plate.
And that's always been a hallmark of Ty Sebastian. He rings up the strikeouts, does not hand out the free passes. And then, Peter, to your point in that game, 2 triples in his first 2 at-bats. A couple of runs scored and just leading the way again here at the Canadians, and a very deserving qualifying round MVP.
Well, he had 12 hits last year on their way to a silver medal. Member of Canada's national team in New Zealand. Into the air for Corey Way, and he'll track it down. And Brandon Horn is retired with the game's first out. Tyler Paul-I, the batter, had a walk-off home run in a big win yesterday over Grand Prairie that elevated them into, Blair, the 1-2 playoff side of the bracket, and he drills this one, but right at Denny Benson. Hit it right on the screws, did Paul-I. but Benson was positioned accordingly, and yeah, you can say it. I don't have to.
Well, it arced right into the glove of Denny Benson. That's how hard Tyler Pauli hit it. It was curving. And Denny Benson took about 2 steps to his right, held up the glove, and found its way right in.
So a couple of fly ball outs, and Bear Creek not wasting any time. And one of the reasons would be, Blair, when the opposition knows that you're always going to be around the plate, they probably have a hitting mentality right off the hop.
Well, these teams and a lot of these players certainly will see each other on the tournament circuit, but they also see Ty Sebastian outside of the major tournament circuit with his club team, Brussels Tigers. He and Travis Jones have been playing against each other since they were 6 years old.
Well,
this is at bat number 1,798 for Travis and Ty wins this one.
There might have been a little sarcasm and fibbery on that point, but it's a good one nonetheless. 3 up, 3 down for the Bear Creek Express against Ty Sebastian, who, by the way, will lead it off when we come back to Surrey in a game that will decide our first finalist. The Bear Creek Express, Mac Mulvey, just out of your screen now, and boy, has he been a nice story. Played for Canada at a World Junior Championship back in 2016. He's in left field, and here is the lineup that the Batmen will send to the plate tonight. And not a lot of change, Blair, from what we have seen all week long. Is there a perfect 6-0, including this morning into the afternoon playoff win over the Niagara Stompers, and that one was really never in doubt.
No, almost from the first pitch, Ty Sebastian looked really good on the board and then came in the bottom of the first inning, and I think he hit the first or second pitch for a bloop triple. You don't often say that, but it landed just inside the line and spun foul and kicked along the fence, and Ty went for a run.
Well, Riley Mannion threw a terrific game against the Galway Hitmen. Gave up 7 hits, 3 runs, struck out 8, and walked 2 in that 4-3 triumph. And he's firing early.
The question I just had, Peter, was when was the last time Riley Mannion had to go 2 in a day? Not during the main portion of the Bear Creek Express season.
This is a high pop-up and might be playable. Is, but wasn't.
That got up over the lights, and both Jeff Lyons and Tyler Pauli got to the fence, and it actually fell in behind them. And that's a break for Ty Sebastian.
Riley Mannion has thrown 22 1/3 in the tournament. Given up 11 runs. Sebastian, another high pop-up. Look at the ball, and Dallas Kipfer can't handle it.
He lost it. He was shrugging his shoulders and then found it just at the absolute last second through the glove out. Sebastian hit this so high. Right there, Kipfer doesn't have it.
And Sebastian finds himself at second base.
So 2 breaks for Ty. And you have to call error on that, but that's a really just unfortunate break for Dallas Kipfer. These are great lights here, but he hit that so high it was up over the top of the lights.
We'll wait for the official score. Ty Sebastian came into the night batting .438. Denny Benson has been a terror. And off the roof and look out below.
I'm just concerned for your iPad again. I want to make sure we don't get a repeat of that one.
Yeah, we really don't need that. Denny Benson having a marvelous Canadian, and he's 9 for 18, 3 home runs, and 12 runs batted in. And he looks like he is absolutely dialed in on this first at-bat. This Toronto group, Blair, as you know oh so well, has been together for a long time, and the majority of them also together on the tournament circuit as well as here, and some more defensive trouble.
And you wonder, Peter, if this hour-and-a-half delay has something to do with the Bear Creek Express and the misadventures that they're having right now. Jeff Lyons does not boot balls on the regular, I can tell you that.
Well, Riley Mannion could easily have 2 outs, and he has none. And that will definitely be scored in air, and Benson's running, and he's out. A great throw by Nick Moore to get Denny Benson.
And I think a bit of a force there, unnecessary force by Toronto in trying to get Denny Benson up into scoring position. Let the game come to you just a little bit.
Change up, over and drawn in infield, and Corey Way does it again. He's had some really key hits as he has given the Toronto Batmen a 1-0 lead. That's his 9th hit of the tournament, and now 8th run batted in. His biggest hit, I would suggest so far in the event, was a 2-run game-winning single against Bear Creek in the round-robin matchup that clinched top spot in the pool. And he has given the Batmen the 1-0 lead after an interesting decision, which I thought might have turned the tide momentum-wise.
So it looks like they gave Sebastian a hit on that play and then an error, obviously, on the Denny Benson play.
Cody Skelton, the batter. He homered in the win over the Niagara Stompers earlier today. Cody's 4th Canadian Championship home run.
And already making Riley Mannion throw a lot of pitches here in the bottom of the first inning. And where I was going a little bit earlier, Peter, was this is the second game of the day for Riley Mannion. He hasn't had to do this since May. He's logged a lot of innings this week. He's been the ace for the Express. He's a big young man. He's got broad shoulders. He can handle this workload. But it is late in the season, and there's been a lot of water under the bridge.
Well, even between the years, to have the kind of game that he had, and you beat the 3-time reigning champions, to get yourself just ready again for another very important game. And I think without Quentin Bruce, his role becomes even more important. And a strikeout, his 39th of the tournament. And facing young shortstop Mitchell McKay, and they're going to test Moore again. And Corey Way has a stolen base.
Well, clearly they think they've got something on Nick Moore. He sails this one. That's the only throw I can think of from Nick Moore this week that hasn't been bang on the money. He's thrown a few guys out.
Mitchell McKay is the older of the two McKay brothers. Center fielder Mason is 21. He's 23. Both played for Canada in April at the U23 World Cup. So did the guy in the circle. Fouls it back and out of play. Quickly, Mannion ahead. 2 strikes. Mitch McKay in the tournament, 2 for 9. Has scored 4 runs. Trying to drive one in here. And had a good rip at that rise ball. Still only 1 out here in a half inning that seems like it's lasted quite a long time. 2 out, pardon me. I'm looking at the scoreboard instead of my scorebook. Drop is out of the zone, and it's 1 ball and 2 strikes to Mitch McKay. And this is not his first Canadian championship of the season. He helped Tavistock to a Canadian U23 title, was an all-star. Batted .350 in that tournament in Saskatoon with 7 runs batted in.
And there was a time not so long ago, Peter, that you couldn't do that.
I knew you
were. You could
gonna...
only play in 1 Canadian championship.
And I was thinking, and you might have the answer, be interesting to know how many players would have won 2 Canadian championships in different divisions in the same year. Now, a lot of work left to be done before we're talking in that way, but they are 2 wins away.
It's been done. I'm going to search the memory banks to see if I can come up with somebody who has done it, and I'm sure perhaps somebody out there in the audience can send us in a clue.
Yeah, you're a busy man on the phone during these games. You're getting all kinds of stuff to deal with.
It'll be a little quieter because Joe Todd has gone to bed. Joe Todd sends us great notes during the game.
Yeah, he does. Highly, highly appreciative, in all sincerity, of any note that helps. And Mitch McKay helps his on-base percentage with a walk. Isaiah Whetstone, the 26-year-old, he has 3 hits in 11 official at-bats. And the Batman, who got off to a great start in the first playoff game of the day, looking to build on an early 1-0 lead. the Souk Loggers, the Galway Hitmen. Have to be careful with it. It's Galway, not Galway. Galway.
Galway. The proper
yes
Irish and Newfoundland pronunciation.
Kipfer. And great hustle by McKay to make that closer than it could have been. Well, Riley Mannion scrambles, and I wouldn't say it was the best defensive inning of the week for the Express. They trail it by only one after one in this semi-final affair at the Canadian Senior Men's Championship. The Toronto Batmen strike first in this game that will determine our first gold medal finalist. The winner will play for the title tomorrow at 3. Toronto played for the title in 2022 and lost to the Galway Hitmen 4-1 in the title game. Galway lost to Bear Creek earlier today 4-3, but did knock off Nova Scotia, the East Hants Shooters Bar and Grill Mastodons, and will face the host Souk Loggers in our first of 3 games tomorrow.
Jeff Lyons just tried to tie the game there on one swing. He's a guy who can do it, just doesn't need to force it.
Has homered. 3 runs batted in the tournament for Lyons.
Hit one out this morning in the victory over the Galway Hitmen.
That was a really key moment in the game. It gave them a 2-1 lead. And I think a real jolt of confidence. And Lyons probably thinking a little about a rare miscue at first base.
You've got to put that behind you. Jeff Lyons has been around the block enough times to know. But as you said, Peter, not the best played defensive half.
And Ty Sebastian continues to work very effectively. Back-to-back strikeouts for him. And there's one away in the top of the second. Brings to the plate the catcher, Nick Moore. Moore, 2 hits. He's 2 for 16. Does have 3 runs batted in.
Boy, they are chasing the rise ball right now. Everybody with the uppercut swing trying to catch up to Ty Sebastian, and nobody has been able to do it right now.
It's jumping. Ty had 63 strikeouts in last year's Canadian Championship, where he pitched 35 1/3, went 6-1 with a 1.58 earned run average, and he's having a very similar tournament in 2023.
Well, and the advantage for Toronto here this year, Peter, is a particular if they can win this game. Ty just ran out of gas in the championship game last year. If they can get there tonight, look out. No matter who comes in, they're going to be already having played one, possibly two games. And you're going to face a fresh Ty Sebastian. Whew.
And he is throwing as well as he has all week. Did not pitch a lot for Canada at the World Championship. Had a 3-run homer against Japan. And has had a marvelous week in Surrey, named the qualifying round MVP, and for good reason. Back-to-back strikeouts, and now dealing with one of the emerging stars of this tournament, Mac Mulvey.
On the Prince Albert team in
16?
Well, I think it was 18 actually.
18?
Because 16 was Midland, and I don't remember him being with the Canadian team in Midland.
No, it was 18.
Yeah, so 18 in Prince Albert. And he came into the lineup a couple of days ago, got a nice pinch hit RBI, and then down on strikes here, but who isn't against Ty Sebastian, but had a couple of hits against Sean Cleary today like it was nothing.
And big ones. His hits have all been big ones. Tough to hit Ty Sebastian right now. He struck out 4 in a row and has faced only 6. The Batman with a 1-0 lead in a game that will determine our first finalist of the Canadian Senior Men's Championship on the great Softball Premier TV. One nothing, Riley Mannion. The way that first inning of work went for him, it could have been significantly worse had it not been for his efforts. And he faces third baseman Johnny Baker. And Baker
Well, he picked up his first hit of the tournament at the end of the game this morning.
It ended the game.
He did. He had the game-ending RBI, but he has had a very tough week. He's had a couple of walks, which really have just been moral victories for Johnny getting on base. He's scuffled here this week.
Officially, they have him on the stat sheet at about 1 for 9, and Pauli, who has made some stellar plays, made a couple of gems off of Jordan Pomeroy this afternoon, just made another pretty good one, and Mr. Baker swinging the bat a little better. It's amazing what a hit might do for your confidence.
Well, I think he just stuck the bat out and got it in the path of the pitch. But a good result for Tyler Pauli. And maybe, Johnny Baker could take a little bit of confidence from making contact.
Derek Hyde has made plenty of contact.
I literally was about to say the same thing.
He has had another terrific Canadian championship. The 26-year-old catcher had 7 hits in last year's event and has been even better than that this week. In fact, he's leading them in average at .533 and almost another Bear Creek defensive miscue, but Jeff Lyons digs one out of the dirt.
Yeah, Riley Mannion shot puts this one over to first, right into the feet of Jeff Lyons. That's a grenade coming your way, and he did a good job to smother it.
Yeah, going into that at bat, and even after it, Derek Hyde is 8 for 16. He's batting .500 here, and has 6 runs batted in, including a home run. Center fielder Mason McKay. Did he check his swing? I think he did.
Well, the first base umpire agrees with you. Our blue crew tonight is Mark Taylor from Alberta behind the plate. That's Frank Fargy from Manitoba out at first. Nick Allen from BC is at second. Glenn Brown, our other USA softball exchange umpire, is at third. Glenn Brown drove here. He's just over the strait, Peter, in Washington State. He said in a conversation I had with him earlier in the week, he said this is the closest tournament he's worked all year.
Well, depending where he is. As you found out yesterday in our little adventure to White Rock, you can see it from there, talking about the state of Washington. So we are not very far away from.
Well, for both Glenn Brown and for Kevin, who is up here from Shipman, Illinois, Kevin Wallace.
Mannion will have another try, and he did it again.
Spiked it into first base. Donnie Scott is 8 feet over to my right. He's laughing because he's made that same play about a dozen times over in his life, too. I think the best play for Riley Mannion right there is to turn and wheel it to first underhand. Jeez.
It's been a while since I've seen that in the same inning. But it was still a 1-2-3 inning, and it remains 1-0 for the Batmen in this semifinal affair on playoff Saturday night in Surrey. Top of the third inning. 1-0 as the Batmen scored in the bottom of the first. And Ty Sebastian is rolling already with 4 strikeouts, and those have come consecutively in the 6 batters that he has faced. Scott Lelis in the designated player role. He did come into the game earlier today in the win over Galway and was in a pinch hitting spot. And again, we have to mention it. It is a massive loss not to have Quentin Bruce in your lineup.
It really is. And you can't adjust for that. So you can't compensate, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So you have to adjust. You can't replace him outright.
He had 5 home runs, 10 runs batted in. Was the top hitter at the World Cup in New Zealand. And Ty Sebastian, 5 in a row now for number 8. He looks like a guy determined to win a Canadian championship.
Well, right now he is saying, climb on my back, fellas. Because he is throwing smoke out there right now. Just blew that right by Dallas Kipfer.
The 30-year-old from Brussels, Ontario, Ty Sebastian. There is no answer right now.
No, this is, thus far, and it's still early, a dominating performance.
He wanted that one, too. Ball and 2 strikes to Dallas Kipfer, who has made some big offensive contributions to allow Bear Creek to be in this very important game. Six in a row. Remember, in his 3 innings of work this morning against Niagara, he had 8 strikeouts of a possible 9. And now it's center fielder Noah Baker, who's been in left, but without Quentin Bruce, moves over.
Well, and Noah Baker should have had a 2-run home run in that game earlier against the Galway Hitmen. Bradley Ezekiel stole it from him at the fence.
It's a great catch. That would have put it away. They did end up hanging on and winning it 4-3. Ezekiel with 2 more home runs at the plate tonight and has 13 runs batted in for Galway in the tournament. Ty Sebastian is in some kind of groove here tonight in this very important clash. Well, if this is any indication, he's played for his country at a World Cup before. See you in Prince Albert. What a start for Sebastian.
Does not feel like a 1.
Sebastian, who has dazzled us in the circle. And guess who scored the only run of the game? Him. He leads things off in the bottom of the third. And Riley Mannion is a terrific young pitcher and trying to keep his Bear Creek Express in the game. Ty Sebastian doesn't figure to give many up the way he's performing. But Mannion's certainly capable of shutting the door.
And we saw that earlier against the Galway Hitmen. A couple of times they put the pressure on and he answered.
He most certainly did. In a 4-3 upset win. A mile high. The ball is doing some interesting things in the air, and it is causing fielders a lot of grief. This one hauled in by Mac Mulvey in left.
That's like tracking a golf shot, is how high he hit that with the camera work. Great job by Carol D'Areste.
Denny Benson. He reached on an error. And then was thrown out trying to steal second by Nick Moore. That gets away from Riley Mannion in his second straight appearance. And went the distance, all 7. Unlike Sebastian, who was removed for Anderson with a big lead after 3.
Well, and think about how important that was. 3 innings kept him nice and fresh for tonight. And we wondered about Sean Cleary pitching the last 3 innings or so for Galway tonight against
the East Hants
Mastodons, as they had a 7-1 lead and perhaps an opportunity missed to get Cleary out of the game and get some rest.
I don't know. Don't have a for sure answer. I have to believe that that's what Sean wanted.
I can't dispute that whatsoever. I also just harken back 2 weeks ago when Sean came out early in the championship game in Wisconsin. And balance those 2 out.
And the other thing that we talked about is that last game, a 7-1 victory for the Galway Hitmen, was they want to play 3 in a row tomorrow.
Yeah. And that is going to be the big test.
Riley Mannion has his second strikeout of the game. And Corey Way, who drove in the game's only run with a single in the first, comes back up. His 3rd run batted in of the week against Bear Creek. And he had the game winner a couple of days ago in their round robin clash of unbeatens. Change up. Kipfer in time. 3 up, 3 down. Pitchers settled right in on semifinal Saturday at Softball City. Brandon Horn against Ty Sebastian. And Horn with a good swing on Sebastian's first offering. He has struck out 7 batters in a row. And he looks like he could throw for a week straight. But Brandon Horn, a Canadian world champion in 2015, more than capable. You're having a great time with that.
Well,
program.
I'm just marveling over some of the numbers here. Conrad Margolis was kind enough to drop off a program from the 1992 BC Champion Souvenir Program, the Vancouver Magicians. Conrad Margolis, one of the co-sponsors of that squad. And Darren Zach played for the Vancouver Magicians that year. This is how much the teams used to play back then, Peter. Darren had a 41-14 record on his own, 416 innings pitched.
How on earth would he have lost 14 games? Brandon Horn.
698 strikeouts in 416 innings. A 0.84 ERA. So not quite 2 strikeouts on average, but getting close to that mark. He set the strikeout record at the ISC World Tournament that year with the Magicians. Do you know who broke that record? Darren Zach the next year with the Toronto Gators. And then broke it again with the Gators in '95, I think, if I remember correctly. He's the only guy that's even close to those particular strikeout numbers.
Now that is just the Magicians League play, or would that include...
This was the whole season.
The whole, so it would include provincials and the Canadians.
Yeah, yeah. They lost the Canadian Championship that year. It was an all-BC final. Victoria would win the championship, if I remember correctly here. Conrad pointed it out to me. I think it was a 2-1 game in the championship. 1-0 for Victoria Payless over the Magicians in the championship game. Mike Pietnik.
What a pitcher, the left-hander. 8 and counting. This is starting to turn into one of those I'll never forget type outings. Ty Sebastian, have a night. And yet, we're a long ways away from accomplishing really anything. It's 1-0, and we're in the top of the 4th.
And I said in between innings, it doesn't feel like a 1-0 game, but that's exactly what it is. Ty Sebastian has been overwhelming for the Batmen when they're out in the field. But Riley Mannion, in his own way, has just about matched him pitch for pitch. He's not racking up the strikeouts, but he's just getting outs.
And if it wasn't for a couple of defensive blunders, it's probably 0-0.
You had a good look there at Ty Sebastian. The footwork on the board.
Great shot.
The heel in contact with the board. And then the mids of the foot. That's one of the few drop balls that he's thrown. It's primarily been the rise ball all night long. Nobody's been able to catch up to it, so keep going.
Here it comes again against Tyler Pauli. As I said, here it comes again.
Well, and Pauli was the only guy who made solid contact. Brandon Horn popped out to left field. Pauli ripped one to right, but it's right at Denny Benson in right field. We don't even need the defensive boards here for the Toronto Batmen right now. It's Ty Sebastian and Derek Hyde playing pitch and catch.
Travis Jones gets a piece, fouls it back, takes a little bite, I think, out of Derek Hyde.
This is somebody that Ty will want to be, let's say, careful with. Travis Jones, a notorious bad ball hitter. Home runs at the eyes, home runs down at the ankles.
What on earth do you need to see him about? Where you're going to have dinner when it's over?
Maybe not the pitch that Derek Hyde was expecting, perhaps.
That's exactly what happened. But I just thought I would.
I think that's a great observation, though. Really. Like, what on earth do you need to go out to see him for? Just catch what's thrown your way.
No balls, 2 strikes. Again. To Travis Jones. That's 10. 10 strikeouts in a row for Ty Sebastian. There are no words from me. It's 1-0 for Sebastian and company in this semifinal affair in Surrey. Ty Sebastian has struck out 10 in a row, but his team has yet to supply a lot of insurance. And in fact, if it wasn't for a couple of Bear Creek mistakes, we'd be staring down the barrel at 0-0. 1-0. And Cody Skelton, the designated player, is the batter. And take nothing away from the guy in Burgundy in the other circle who is having himself a marvelous day as a changeup gets away from him on the first pitch to Skelton, who struck out.
Oh, he has sat down 9 in a row. A couple of them unconventionally. One hop throws to first.
Well, we had an amazing pitchers duel earlier in a 3-4 playoff game that went 9 innings between Justin Schofield and East Hants and Stephen Normand and the Grand Prairie Pirates. Schofield struck out 19 in that game, so I have to keep that in mind as we marvel at what Ty Sebastian is doing. 19.
That is an outing.
Popped in the air, Brandon Horn got a bit of a late start.
I think he was looking at the swing. It's a big swing, but it's just a little spinner.
Could tell even by his body language. Probably thought about a dive, opted not to. Good to see Mannion come right back to that changeup. And the count is full on Skelton, who homered earlier today to right center, his first of the tournament in the win over Niagara. And stays alive with that swing.
Did we move the game to an island?
Apparently. Might be the best chair dancer ever. But on a floor with my feet, 9.
Not happening, eh?
No, it's terrible. It's disgusting how bad I am.
No game there?
No game. Not even the start of a game. Skeleton, he's got game. Ooh. And just got kerplunked. Remember that game as a kid?
I do. All the marbles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Cody doesn't seem to be any worse for wear. We said nobody enjoys getting hit, but he gleefully ran down to first base.
Mitch McKay. He walked and then was forced out to end the first inning. And a swing and a miss from Mitch. Coming up next, in between innings, it's Enrique Iglesias. That's a joke, folks.
It is, and we just asked somebody if they can ask the DJ to turn down the volume a little bit.
So it gets away from catcher Nick Moore, and Skelton scampers up to second.
Thank you.
And now a pinch runner comes in for Cody. Looks like Adam Long. And that's exactly who it is. Still nobody out, and now Nick Moore wants to probably settle Riley Mannion down just a tad. Had that great outing. No matter what happens, Blair, I would think this season will give Riley Mannion a lot of confidence as he moves on in his softball career.
Yeah, it absolutely has to. He has put in some marvelous efforts in some very big games.
And that's an excellent rise ball. As a former player yourself, that pitch is so hard to stay off of. Comes in at the letters, and before you know it, ripped off Mannion. Oh, Pauli did it again.
Slowed it down just enough for Tyler Pauli to pounce on it over near the bag and turned and whipped a throw over to Jeff Lyons. Watch how quickly Tyler Pauli gets to this.
That's fantastic.
Off balance on one leg.
Sensational defense all day long by Pauli. It does move. Adam Long to third, and the batter is Isaiah Whetstone. So officially that play will be scored 1-4 to 3 as it went off Mannion's glove. I love great defense in this sport, and we just saw some of it. Gets away, but off that plexiglass.
And we saw that in the Stompers game. A shot off the plexiglass came back to the catcher, Blake Hunter, for Souk. And he flipped to Mason. And what had been a bases loaded situation for the Stompers turned to ashes as the runner thrown out at the plate trying to score.
Riley Mannion wanted that pitch against Isaiah Whetstone. Whetstone, a fielder's choice situation. He hit a ball that led to Mitch McKay being forced out at second base to end the first. A good one, well underway. A date in the championship final tomorrow on the line, and Mannion has walked Whetstone. And runners at the corners now with one out in the bottom of the fourth. And the way Mr. Sebastian is throwing,
an insurance run would loom very large for
indeed.
The Batman.
Johnny Baker, 0 for 1, swing and a miss. Baker now officially 1 for 13. I feel for him. He didn't have a hit in last year's Canadian Championship, period.
No, it's been a dry spell for Johnny here at the Canadians the last couple of years. Thought maybe that hit to end the game this morning might get him on track, but
and Riley Mannion would love a strikeout in this situation. Doesn't get one, but he might get a double play, and he just did. Great turn by Pauli to end the inning 6-4-3. We had to wait a little extra to get here, but it's been well worth the wait on this Saturday night of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship. One to nothing. It remains going to the top of the fifth in this pitcher's duel. Only been 2 hits in the game. Both of them belong to the Toronto Batmen, and they have the only run.
47 pitches through 4 innings for Ty Sebastian. Just under 12 per inning. And when you're using 9 to ring up the strikeouts, that's a pretty efficient ratio.
Well, he's struck out 10 in a row, going back to the last out of the top of the first, and facing Jeff Lyons here to start the fifth.
Well, and already a better approach here from Jeff Lyons, who has decided, I'm going to leave the rise ball alone.
Make him throw a strike. As Ty swats some bugs away and now looks to get reset again. 3 straight balls. And I'm going to guess he's taking all the way here. If he isn't, call the FBI. There should be an investigation. That didn't look much different than the last pitch, but it was called a strike. 3 balls and a strike. Bear Creek trailing by just 1. And I heard 2. And
Lions is in a little bit of disbelief, but you be the judge here. Hard to take.
So here comes the payoff. Is he going upstairs again? And the streak comes to an end at 10. And Bear Creek has its first base runner as Jeff Lyons draws a full count walk.
And I think we're getting a pinch runner here right away as Lions will give way to Robbie Black will come on. He was doing bullpen guard duty. Came down from the bullpen and took the jacket off, put on a helmet.
Well, for the first time on this beautiful day, a jacket may be required. Good bunt, and Sebastian fields it and makes the throw over to the covering Adam Alexander, playing at second base. And there is one away. Good work by Nick Moore to get it down.
Peter, I'm not normally a bunting advocate or a proponent, but in this situation here where you haven't been able to do anything, you've got to move the runner and try to tie this game.
I need to put some balls in play. Mac Mulvey. Let's talk about that in a second or two. How you are not necessarily a proponent. How come?
I'm of the modern persuasion around the power hitting. The bats and the balls these days give everybody, every hitter, an advantage. Certain situations, this is one of them, where, yeah, okay, I'll agree with giving up and out. The percentages, particularly early in the game, would suggest that no out and a runner on first, you actually have a higher percentage of scoring him in those circumstances than you do with 1 out and a runner on second. It's marginal, but the percentages are in your favor in the former, not the latter. And with the lineups the way that they're constructed today, and this may differ from team to team, when a guy's on first, you can string together 2 hits and score him. You don't necessarily need to waste an out.
Mulvey and Sebastian right back on the strikeout train.
But this situation right here is different, where Ty Sebastian is dominating. You've got a runner now in scoring position. Now you do only need that 1 hit because you got the walk. But when I think of teams, probably the top 10 in the rankings on the tournament circuit, again, the way they're constructed, you look top to bottom. It's guys that can hit the ball top to bottom. It's not like the old days where you had 3 or 4 good hitters and then it was a chase or a struggle down near the bottom of the order.
Well, and I think the greatest point that you made about, and I'm always interested, which is why I asked the question, is bat technology. You're right. It is different. I think from an old school way of looking at things, just in part, is I still get disappointed sometimes that you do it so rarely that you can't do it when it matters the most.
Fully agree. And the lost art, and teams should practice it. And you know who does it really well? Argentina, New Zealand.
I know.
Those players do it really well. Why? Because they practice it.
Single. Throw to the plate is a good one.
What a throw from Mason McKay.
Mason McKay throws a strike to Derek Hyde at home plate to get the pinch runner, who got the wave after the first hit that was surrendered.
Give Derek Hyde credit for going up to get this throw and put the tag on him.
The young center fielder helps out his pitcher, and it remains 1-0. The Batmen, who are about to hit in the fifth.
Yeah, I think you could argue that he couldn't get to the plate.
Well, a great throw to get the runner at home, and then a great discussion off air about the potential of obstruction and the interpretation of it. So the first hit results in a play at home plate, and the Batmen still have the lead. Derek Hyde facing Riley Mannion, who's not been the forgotten pitcher in the game, but when the other guy had 10 strikeouts in a row and has 11. But he is throwing a whale of a game himself. He's only given up 2 hits, and now he has another strikeout. And Riley Mannion is having what I would call a world-class day.
Oh, absolutely. He has matched Ty Sebastian pretty much out for out. And again, if he gets out of that first inning unscathed by a couple of defensive miscues, this is a tie game. He's only allowed 2 hits. Nothing since the first.
A great game with a berth in tomorrow's championship final on the line. And still very much in the balance. Here in the bottom of the fifth, with a guy who just made the defensive play of the game, Mason McKay. And he threw a strike a little up the line. A great throw. And Mannion digging in.
And the debate, Peter, that raged through the break in the inning was that obstruction by the catcher? And the discussion here was he wasn't prevented from getting to the plate, and it was a softball play, and the players decided it. I really like that explanation from the group up here.
I do too.
And I may have simplified it a little bit, but that was the gist of it.
Well, I think there's a real difference. I still feel, and I know there's different interpretations of the rule, and I get that, and I just heard a great explanation myself in between innings between what Major League Baseball or college softball might have in comparison. But I still always feel, Blair, like as someone trying to make a defensive play, do you not get to do that? Like, it's one thing to be planted there waiting. It's another thing when I have to go get a ball, like, because are we going to get to the point where we start just allowing the runner to have fair game?
And I think that is probably, Peter, part of the argument. He had to go to that position to go get the throw. And maybe or maybe not, that's part of the consideration. Again, I'm not an umpire. We're just interested observers. But I think the way that was handled was exceptional all the way around.
I agree. Single. Throw to the plate is a good one. Single. Throw to the plate is a good one. There can be such a difference as we get another look at it.
Is it in you?
It's one thing if you're, waiting to block and obstruct. First of all, let's not forget on that play, he's tagged out. He's not even close to the plate. I guess that's the old defensive part of me. And we saw a very interesting obstruction call in this park at the Canada Cup Women's Tournament that was honestly made this one look like huge obstruction in terms of the bang-bang nature of that play. And here goes the runner, Mason McKay, flying in safely.
Well, he's got speed to burn, and I'm being informed from a source back in Ontario that Toronto feels they can run on Nick Moore.
And Ty Sebastian trying to provide a run and a little insurance, if you will, for himself in this all-important tussle. They've played twice, and they've both been terrific. 6-5 in the round robin for Toronto. It's 1-0 in this pitcher's duel in an even bigger confrontation. And Mannion with a great drop.
Big spot right here for Riley Mannion and Ty Sebastian, the two pitchers in the game. Ty, of course, the leading batter for the Batman 2. You get Ty here. A shot maybe at keeping this game just at one run. You still got to go through Denny Benson as well, but big spot right here in this game.
Drilled. Base hit. Here comes Mason McKay. Jeff Lyons will cut it off, and the Toronto Batmen have opened up a 2-0 lead. As Ty Sebastian continues to do it all for this Toronto team as he drives in yet another run.
Well, and the one thing you can't defense, Peter, are walks. Mason McKay, the 9 batter, works a walk here in the bottom of the 5th. Turn over the order. Stolen base. Clutch hit by Ty Sebastian, and now it's a 2-run game.
His 5th run batted in. And it's a large one. Denny Benson, who a couple of games ago looked like he might hit one out of here on every at-bat, cooled down just a tad. Oh for 2 on the night. And an excellent pitch by Mannion to get Benson with a strikeout for the second time in the game. And that's a great response from Riley Mannion, one of Canada's pitchers in April at the U23 World Cup, which was truly because of COVID and the MOVE tournament. More of a U25 event. Great to see the athletes get a chance that look like they might not get, Blair.
Well, that was a real good move by the WBSC to extend the eligibility for athletes who were previously eligible. Commend them for that, and they've done it too with the current U18 cycle, but this will be the last one with the exemptions. And we'll get back to the normal cycle starting over in, I guess, 2025 for the next U23 event, I think is what I heard earlier today.
Corey Way has the other run batted in. His 7th of the tournament. An RBI single that scored Sebastian back in the bottom of the first. 2-0. Toronto. They were the finalist last year. They're trying to get to the final again in 2023, and the ball gets away from Nick Moore, and it moves Sebastian into scoring position. Corey Way already 3 runs batted in this week against Bear Creek. Does he have another? Not when Riley Mannion's delivering that. Terrific pitch by Mannion. But the Batmen add one big one, and now it's 2-0 in this semifinal affair of the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship. Dallas Kipfer to lead things off against Ty Sebastian, who's given up just 1 hit. He struck out 11. At one point, he sat down 10 batters in a row that way. And Blair, after the added run, how big is that play at home plate now?
Oh, it is. It'll be something that we'll be talking about for the rest of the week here at the Canadians. Just a stellar play all the way around. Mason McKay, Derek Hyde making the tag, hanging on to the ball. Those are the kinds of plays you expect from the top athletes when you get into the final 3-4 games of the tournament.
This has been a terrific ball game. Again, we've had several here this week and today. Knew it was going to be a really good playoff Saturday, and we have not been disappointed. Only 4 hits in this pitcher's duel between Mannion and Sebastian. And the count on Kipfer even at 2-2. He struck out in the third. We're now in the top of the sixth. That rise has been devastating tonight for Sebastian.
Well, he started that one at about the mid-thigh, and it just came up through the strike zone to below the letters. That can occasionally be a dangerous pitch, but that's also very lethal. If you're not looking for it as a batter, there's nothing you can do about it because it's just too late.
Noah Baker didn't think it was a strike. Looked like he might try a surprise bunt.
Dragged the bat through the zone.
And the other real key, so much of the time, Mr. Setford, is you give yourself a great advantage when you're working ahead.
I'm trying to think of the times he's fallen behind, and other than that walk to Lyons, I really can't think of any other batter where he hasn't at least had a 1-1 count. Or at worst, a 1-1 count.
There's been a lot of 0-2 counts tonight.
Absolutely.
Second strikeout of the inning and 13th of the game for Ty Sebastian.
Well, here's where the veterans have to step up. Brandon Horn, Tyler Pauli, Travis Jones. You're now getting your third look. You need to make an adjustment. You can't chase the rise ball. So if it's above the belt, you have to take that out.
Sebastian's next strikeout will be his 50th of the tournament, and Horn fouled that into the netting towards the Batman dugout. Some crucial plays. None bigger after Sebastian gave up his first hit of the game and Mason McKay threw out the runner trying to score from second. And he's behind in this count. 2 balls and a strike. The former Canadian World Champion, Brandon Horn, who won a world title, Canada's last, in 2015. And now he's behind 3-1, a hitter's count for Horn. Certainly played in Canadian championships with Kitchener. There's hit number 2. That is a quality at-bat from an excellent hitter.
Well, talked at the start of the inning about the veterans needing to make an adjustment. Brandon Horn took the rise ball out of the equation. Didn't chase and got a pitch to hit.
And now the tying run comes to the plate, and a guy who does have a walk-off 2-run home run against Grand Prairie to his credit this week, Tyler Pauli.
Hit the ball on the screws, as you said, back in the first.
A bouncer and an excellent play to climb the ladder by Isaiah Whetstone.
Look how high he goes to go get this. Way up in the air.
Might need him in the morning against Spain. It is 2-0 for the Batmen against Bear Creek in the semifinal at Softball City. A pitcher's duel, Sebastian and Mannion, 2-0. 5 hits in the game, 3 for Toronto, 2 for Bear Creek. And leading things off is Cody Skelton, the designated player, hit by a pitch and has struck out in the game. Homered earlier today in their first playoff triumph against the Niagara Stompers.
The number of outstanding pitching performances here on playoff Saturday have been very impressive. We got a great combined effort from Brady Woods and Derek Mason by Suk to knock out the Niagara Stompers 2-0. Suk scored 2 in the top of the first, and Woods and Mason combined made that stand up the rest of the way. Brady Woods actually, I don't know if fainted is the right word, but was lightheaded and had to sit down in the dugout when he came out of the game. I talked to him afterwards. I said, "Are you okay?" And he just said, "Listen, I haven't had a chance to eat. I rolled right into this one," because he pitched the full 7 innings against
Saskatoon.
Saskatoon won 5-0, had 11 strikeouts in that one. And it was warm out there on the diamond today.
This is pretty well hit. And Mac Mulvey indecisive. And Cody Skelton.
Cody Skelton took a big turn around first. The throw came back into the infield, and I think Jeff Lyons faked him out into scrambling and doing the front crawl back to the bag at first. There you see it.
That might have left a mark.
On the planet.
Mitch McKay after the Cody Skelton base hit. That was one of those plays as an outfielder. Do I go get it? Don't I go get it? And Cody Skelton, Adam Alexander will run for him.
So this is just a switch of the flex and the DP. So you won't lose Cody Skelton on a second substitution here.
I have to tell you, sometimes I miss the old way of just the designated hitter.
Yeah, the flex rule, and I mean, I think I understand it fairly well, but I don't think I get all of the various implications of it. It's designed to do that, to provide flexibility, but boy, oh boy, you got people coming and going here and there and everywhere.
Ooh, thank goodness. Mitch McKay was able to get out of the road of that pitch from Riley Mannion. That was close, too close for comfort. That could have been your Softball Premier TV Gillette play of the night. That's a close shave. 2 balls and a strike. Nobody out. After the base hit by Skelton.
With some of the other pitching performances today, you talked about Justin Schofield collecting 19 strikeouts. How about Steve Normand in a losing effort in that game? He had a 1-hitter through 7.
That was some tilt. Mulvey. This one, he takes care of business, and there's one away. So one thing about this sport sometimes, you have a unique defensive situation and all of a sudden here comes another one at you as Mac Mulvey kind of circled around a little bit before he got himself in better position. Isaiah Whetstone made a whale of a play to end the last inning defensively for Toronto and tried to drop down a bunt with one out.
So here's a guy who has been scuffling a little bit at the plate this week, has not been banging out hits like some of his colleagues, so trying to put down a bunt and move the runner along.
There's a big going. They thought he was on the move, Adam Alexander.
And the other thing, Peter, that I'll just say about the bats and the balls, the bat technology obviously allows anybody 1 through 9 to hit the ball out of the park. But the balls themselves, and I love this expression, I picked this up from Steve Mullally, so full credit to Lolly for this. The balls 30, 40 years ago, by the third inning, were like hitting a ball of rolled up socks. Now these things are solid for 7 innings. They've got higher seams, and some of them, not these ones, but some of them have poly cores. These ones have cork cores. And there's a science behind it, the so-called coefficient of restitution. There's our good friend Paul McCart cheering on the Bear Creek squad. Chico, indeed, his long-standing nickname. All of the science together between the bats and the balls, all is in favor of the ability of hitters to hit the ball a long way.
Riley Mannion is hot. And so are the Bear Creek Express supporters.
They might have a beef.
3 balls, 2 strikes. And a strikeout.
First base was occupied at the time of the strikeout, so he can't advance on the drop third strike, but Adam Alexander alertly up to second. So a runner in scoring position. Johnny Baker.
Grounded into an inning-ending 6-4-3 double play his last time up.
Wild pitch from Mannion, and Baker has advanced 120 feet in the last 2 pitches.
Johnny Baker, 1 hit in the event. It did drive in the game-ending run. Hi, Carol.
There is Carol Dreste, our action camera operator, just doing a phenomenal job here all week.
Incredible. Gets away again. Nick Moore has had I don't know if there's miscommunication a little bit, but
I would lean more towards, I think Riley Mannion is rapidly tiring and is losing his release point.
Imagine that, somebody on their phone. Here's Mannion. Baker has a base hit. He has 2 of them, and they've both driven in runs. And this one may very well send the Toronto Batmen back to the Canadian Championship final.
I'm waiting for Johnny Baker to pantomime throwing a gorilla off of his back and into the stands. Boy, he has been wearing that like a hair shirt, but come through with a pretty good base hit right there.
Derek Hyde. Oh for 2 tonight. Grounded back to Riley Mannion and struck out.
But the benefit of those extra bases, that's not a run-scoring single without them.
been a great game, but the Batmen have been opportunistic with a capital O in this game. They took advantage of an error, stolen base, some wild pitches, pass balls. Blair, they have 3 hits or 4 hits now.
Yeah.
And have 3 runs.
3 runs off those 4 hits. And opportunistic is absolutely right. And good teams make the most out of the opportunities that they're given. And Toronto certainly has done that here tonight.
Well, they're 3 outs away from remaining perfect here this week. 5-0 in the round robin. 3 outs away from winning a second straight playoff game. And Riley Mannion had a little extra on that to strike out Hyde for the second time. It would require a big rally off of Ty Sebastian, and we'll show you if it happens. It's a semi-final affair at the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship on Premier, or at least, pardon me, Softball Premier TV. Top of the 7th. The Toronto Batmen are 3 outs away from playing in their second consecutive championship game at a Canadian Senior Men's Championship. They did so last year in St. John's, Newfoundland, and lost 4-1 in the title game to the Galway Hitmen.
What might be a little different this time, Peter, is that they'll be potentially bursting in through the front door, not having to come in the back. And Ty Sebastian last year, when he went into that championship game, was on his 3rd game of the day. That's what the Galway Hitmen are going to have to do tomorrow if they're going to reclaim that crown.
Well, the Sauk Loggers are off the mat. Lost their first 3 against Toronto Grand Prairie and Bear Creek and could have won all of them. Beat the 2 teams they were expected to beat and handily to earn the 4th spot in their pool, and then rang off impressive. They didn't give up a run today against Saskatoon or Niagara. And they'll face Galway in the first of 3 games here on Championship Sunday, starting at 10:30. And Ty Sebastian has his 14th strikeout of the game.
Peter, the Niagara Stompers, their final 3 games, did not score a run.
Shutout by Galway, shutout by Toronto, shutout by Sauk.
And that game this afternoon between Sauk and Niagara, you just kept waiting for Niagara to try to counterpunch, but it just never came.
Jeff Lyons fouls it back.
Boy, there have been some major league pop-ups in this game tonight.
maybe unlike I've ever seen.
But those two by Sebastian in his first at bat, the one that looked like it was going to go out of play, drifted back, and then the one that he hit, both of them came down with ice on it.
Lyon stays off that 0-2 rise ball. A ball and 2 strikes as Ty Sebastian has done it all again for Toronto. He's driven in a run, struck out 14, given up just the 2 hits. He's been the MVP of this event so far. He was in the qualifying round, and he's working towards a little more than that. Doing it every which way you can in the sport.
In an era where the two-way pitcher hitter is a rarity these days, Ty Sebastian showing that he's absolutely a throwback. There are a couple here this week. Devin McCullough did that for Saskatoon. Colin Walsh has spent a fair bit of time pitching for the Galway Hitmen, and we may yet see Colin Walsh tomorrow on the board.
A rare changeup from Sebastian.
I've only seen, I think, 2 tonight. And Peter, the Skelton family, Cheryl and Mike, 2 of the best people you will ever meet in this game. They're on the verge of having both of their teams in the championship games here. The Scarborough Force are in the finals in the Masters division. And the Toronto Batmen on the verge here in the men's division.
Are they playing Melfort in the final?
Don't know if that has been decided yet, but the Force from Scarborough, Coburg, are one of the teams that will play in that Masters. I think there is a semifinal to get to the final tomorrow to play the Force, and Melfort may indeed be in that.
And a good at-bat for Jeff Lyons as he turned what was an 0-2 count against him into a walk. It is the second free pass on my score sheet.
Both of them to Jeff Lyons as well.
Nick Moore. Swing and a miss.
Now, they pinch ran for Jeff back in the 5th. Robbie Black was actually the runner thrown out at the plate. So Jeff's either going to have to run for himself or you're going to have to burn him out.
And Sebastian, which has been a hallmark for him in every outing, he's worked a lot from in front in a lot of counts. As Nick Moore goes down swinging. "15 strikeouts. 53 now in the tournament. Justin Schofield had a 19 strikeout performance in a playoff win in 9 innings over Grand Prairie earlier today. And the Toronto Batmen are 1 out away from playing for the Canadian Championship for a second straight year. But Blair, I love the analogy. Last year they had to get there through the back door.
Tonight they are kicking down the front door and are a strike away from doing so.
Been opportunistic. Only 5 hits, 3 runs, and a sensational outing from Sebastian.
Sweet 16.
Ty Sebastian pitches The Toronto Batmen back to the Canadian Senior Men's Championship final. He strikes out 16 tonight in a 2-hit shutout of the Bear Creek Express. And the Express still have life. They will play tomorrow in the second game of the day. They'll face the winner of the 3-time reigning champion, Galway Hitmen, and the Souk Loggers, the host team in this event. Blair, it's been quite a day.
Some spectacular games today. 5 games here on Softball Premier TV. None better than the one that we just watched. It's going to take something to beat these guys tomorrow.
They are a perfect 7-0 and will need to make it 8 to leave with what they wanted and what they came for. The Toronto Batmen on the verge of a Canadian title after a 2-0 win over Bear Creek. For Luciano, Carol, Blair, I'm Peter. Hope you've enjoyed it. I know we have. See you again tomorrow on Championship Sunday from the Canadian Senior Men's Softball Championship at Softball City.
For the latest in softball innovation, the website where you can experience the best tournaments in the Americas. Live games, news, tournaments, and much, much more. The best quality live softball, on demand so you can watch when you want. Become a Premier member now. Softball Premier